What's good, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Not So CEO Talk Show. I am your lovely host, Brittany Antoinette. Thank you. I am so excited to be back with another segment of Office Hours where we chat all things business and branding. So today's topic is the B in business stands for boundaries. Okay, so the B word, boundaries, right? So I just jumped on the boundaries bandwagon. I want to say maybe in the end of 2020, sometime in 2021, where I, started doing my research, especially just the influx of social media posts and just information in general. Oh, TikTok. Oh, God, I love TikTok. You just become a lot more aware of your life and your conditioning and your surroundings. And where I've noticed boundaries the most, like where they take the most precedent in my life, is in relationships. So I actually read a book, I believe it's called Set Boundaries, Find Peace. I think that's what it's called. And the author, her name is Nidra Webb. I want to say Nidra Webb. I do not want to mess or chop her name up, but I know my girl Nidra. Life-changing, okay? But this book literally taught me what boundaries were. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I used to have these relationships and I would reflect over them and be like, oh my God, I did so much for this person. And I used to show up in this way and that way and that way. And it just ended. Why didn't they, why weren't they grateful for what I did for them? And I'm like, girl, first of all, did they ask you to do that? Second of all, are you mad at the fact that you got used by somebody, or are you more mad at the fact that you didn't use yourself in the way that they used you? You got to ask yourself that question sometimes. So I got to a point where, self-reflection, awareness moment where I said, Brittany, no one is doing you wrong. Your boundaries suck. You have a very, how do I say this? I had a very subtle, non-aggressive, but passive aggressive way of setting boundaries, where I would react after, thinking like, oh my God, everything is peaches and candies and unicorns and pie. Not realizing like, girl, like you actually don't have to stand for this. You actually, this violates this. Hey, do you see here? This goes against what you believe in. It goes against your wants and it goes against your needs. So let me just define the term boundary really quickly. So it's something that indicates or fixes a limit or extent, right? Again, a lot of us are not taught what boundaries are. And a lot of the times, a lot of our boundaries have been violated by the time we even get to adults. So having your boundaries violated as a child can look like things like your parents, like reading your journal or like reading your mail and going through that mail. And our parents, like, depending on your upbringing, they're like, well, it's my mail too. And it's like, what, girl? No, it does not have your name on it. But then you dare not say anything because you're afraid to get popped in your mouth. Right. And then you might even have instances where there might be a family member that makes you feel very uncomfortable, and you let your parent know that, and they still are like, go give them a hug. And they have no clue as to why you feel uncomfortable, or do they care to know? That is a violation of your boundaries. Right? Violation of my boundaries. I've had my boundaries violated as a kid, as an adult, as a business owner, so on and so forth. But a lot of the times our boundaries are actually not our boundaries, but the way that we feel about things in our lives, right? Our emotions can actually pinpoint to where we might need boundaries in our life, especially anger. And I'm going to talk about that a little later. So granted, woe is me. And, you might feel like a victim, but we are not victims. We are victorious. Okay. We are not victims. We are victorious. We overcome everything that we go through. So when it comes to boundaries in general, they can look different, but there are three ways to typically classify boundaries. So you have porous boundaries, rigid boundaries, and healthy boundaries, right? So porous boundaries can look like just being too involved. Like you have no limits. Like you're always there. You're always popping up. You're always available. You're always getting involved in things. You're Captain Save a client. Right? Then we have rigid boundaries where it's like you're too distant. Like you are so inaccessible and you are so stringent and strict. It's kind of like Miss Trenchbull and Matilda. Like, we don't like those vibes. Then healthy boundaries, which is a balance between being there for yourself and being there for others. And we all want to get to the point where we have healthy boundaries, where we can clearly distinct when it's time to prioritize our needs and when it's time to actually be able to help others with theirs. Okay. So boundaries can show up many different ways in business. So boundaries in business can look like contracts. It can look like a scope of work agreement. So a contract, of course, is going to be the obligations that are to be fulfilled by you and the other party, the acknowledgement of that. And meanwhile, scope of work agreement, and the difference between a scope of work agreement versus a contract is that the scope of work agreement is just a bit more detailed. And the scope of work agreement includes things like deadlines, timelines, and it's a bit more specific in the asks, and it lists all the asterisks and things that can happen just in case. But a good idea is to always include a scope of work agreement inside of a contract and just make it one big long document. Yeah. Okay. Policies and procedures. These are also boundaries, your policies, the way that you choose to manage your business with processes and systems. Okay. You have your own policies because this is what makes your business flow. This is what is expected of your clients in order to make sure they participate in making sure that flow is good. Sometimes we have situations where our policies and our procedures are violated, and you need to make sure that's always reinstated and that you're abiding by those things. Operating hours. Operating hours are another form of boundaries in business. The times that you are available and the times that you are not available. People should be hitting you up about business between these hours, and anytime after is no. If a client hits you up on the weekend and you clearly state that you do not work on the weekends, then that's in violation of one of your boundaries in your availability, right? So again, boundaries can come in many different forms, and it applies to business in so many different ways because, again, we will see our past haunt us and chase us. You think just because you ain't got boundaries in relationships, that ain't going to seep, over into business relationships too. No. It's going to, it's holistic. They all connect. Right. And I even noticed myself, like the same style of, that same way of being that I was when I had those friendships where I felt like I was giving too much and that they were very one-sided. I would get myself into some of those situations sometimes with some clients. And I'm like, girl, you have not changed not one bit. You have not changed not one bit. And it's like, why do that to yourself? Right? So now when it comes to just feeling like you get to a point, I guess, where it just feels like you are burnt out, or you just feel like your life is in chaos and you need some order. Boundaries create structure. Okay. They teach you how to uphold a certain means of respect for yourself and what you will tolerate and what you will not tolerate. And it helps you live out your manifesto or live out in your truth. And it's easier to indicate and spot just what isn't for you and what is for you just by having these boundaries in place. And sometimes we think that boundaries are a bad thing and we'll be like, oh my God, well, I don't want to create this distance. And no, boundaries are not for the other person. It's for you. Your boundaries are here to protect you. They're not meant to hurt anyone. Again, boundaries are meant to protect you. It's, here to remind people, hey, you're late, typically when people are late, this is what happens. You want to make sure that you're reiterating these boundaries and that you're making people be aware of the things that make you uncomfortable or the things that are going to put you at a disadvantage. You owe it to yourself to be transparent about that. You deserve it to be transparent about when you are being inconvenienced. And sometimes as service providers, we'll just bite the bullet and believe that because we're supposed to be in service of other people, we're supposed to just neglect our own needs. And in the end, again, that creates an unhappy you, and that's going to create an unhappy client. So a couple of signs that you may have poor business boundaries. For one, you begin to feel like an ignored bill collector whenever an invoice is due. I say this all the time. I did not get in business to become a bill collector. Right. Why are you chasing clients for invoices? You are entitled to be paid on time, especially if you completed the scope of work within those parameters. You held up your end of the bargain, right? You're always available. Clients can call and text you any time of day. Okay. That is not cool at all whatsoever. You can be enjoying yourself at brunch with your girlfriends, and then a client is texting you saying, hey, I need this done on Monday, and it's Sunday, and it's like, I'm sorry, Saturday. And it's like, wait, why are you texting me today? Like, why do you need that anxiety? Whew. Okay. You feel confused on where you are in your own process. If you got people making you feel confused about something that you created, it is time to go back to yourself and see what is going on and why is this happening. Wherever there is confusion, you need to get away from it in order for you to gain clarity. Okay. You're afraid to verbally let your client know when they violated a term in your agreement. I have done this as well, where I would just suck it up and I would just be like, oh my God, I just need to complete the work. It doesn't even matter. And it's like, girl, yes, it does. Because you do not know what's going to happen 6 months from now. And I will get into detail about that on another episode on what happens when you aren't communicative about your needs and about, you know, being transparent about what's happening and letting people know when they have inconvenienced you. Oh, another one. You've been waiting forever on client content. This is, you know, my heart goes out to my web designers, my brand designers, my graphic designers, my brand strategists, anyone that requires customer feedback, anyone that requires customer decisions in order to make a final absolute decision. My heart goes out to you, going back and forth with people over these kinds of things, just because waiting on content is going to kill your project. If you do not have everything you need in order to begin a project, the project cannot start. It's starting off on the wrong foot. You need to complete that checklist, or the clients need to complete that checklist before moving on. And you shouldn't have to wait months on someone, especially you have things to do. You have things to do. You can't, you know, you need to make it a policy. We're going to talk about that though. You need to make that a policy. We're going to talk about that in another episode. But you should not have to stop your business operations to manage a client project or give more resources to a client project. Like you shouldn't have to cut off your own resources in order to keep that going. Next, you're more focused on completing your work than withholding the terms that protect you, right? So when you're so gung-ho about, yeah, I just want to complete this project, so on and so forth, I would just want to keep the client happy, so on and so forth, and you're not paying attention to your agreement, oh man, you don't want to set yourself up for failure that way. Actually hold your clients accountable to the agreement. Now, I'm not saying to, you know, slap them on the hand every single time it happens, but when you're just focused on creating, like, say, for example, your client, you know, takes forever to give feedback. You go ahead and you complete the work and you clear out your schedule to get this done, and then they waste your time. You could have taken on another client who would have actually appreciated your time. right? You're now, again, and this is what I was talking about on a vibratory level. Is this what you deserve? You don't deserve that at all whatsoever. Okay. Another thing, your projects are late and all over the place, and I am guilty for this one as well. And there are so many reasons as to why your projects can be late, but when your project is late, it is typically a mismanagement or poor time management, mismanagement of use of time. And when you have these projects that are late and delayed, and you actually have clients that are following by your rules, that are following your processes, their projects should not have to get impacted because you have a couple of clients who are not mindful of your processes or considerate of your processes. That's not fair, right? Why should those clients get the short end of the stick, especially when they're cooperative and they are giving you 100%? Right? You need to match energy. Like, everyone's like, oh my gosh, be the bigger person. Yes, be the bigger person, but also know when it's time to cut things loose, know when it's time to speak up, and know when it's time when you might just have to go your separate ways. All right. You have a hard time prioritizing your commitments. If you do not know how to prioritize your commitments, that means, baby, you need to take a lot of self-care time, alone time to yourself, and get clear about why you were here and what you were meant to do. A client always late with feedback. Oh man, that's definitely a sign if you have, poor business boundaries, just because you need to let somebody know when they have got you effed up. Stop letting people slide by with disrespect. Because if you let it happen once, it's going to happen again. Because let me tell you something. People aren't aware of their bullshit. It takes for someone to make them conscious of it. Hey, I'm not dealing with this. I get that you're used to operating at 40% and giving people 40%, but I need 100, baby, and you're not on my level. So it's either A, you're going to come up to my level, or B, if I come down to your level, we're just going to have to handle it on these type of terms. You feel me? Okay. Ooh, one of my other favorite, ways to determine whether or not you have a poor business boundary. Creating deliverables and services for free and giving free revisions. That is a clear indication that your business boundaries are a little porous, very porous, actually. Why are you working for free? Okay. Now, in the instance you have extra time and energy and you can sacrifice, doing a couple of extra graphics and whatnot, especially if you know that it's just going to the energy of the relationship, that's one thing. But if you clearly do not have the time, the energy, or the resources, why are you doing things for free and then complaining about it? Oh my God, no one's valuing my work. No, it's that you are not valuing yourself, baby. And you need to understand that until you value yourself, no one is going to value you. You have the right to be here, but you have to claim that. You can't just expect for people to appreciate you. You have to make people appreciate you, and they will, especially when you show off those amazing qualities that you have and that amazing work that you have. Okay, so I'm going to just go over, now that we are completely aware of the ways in which we may have some poor business boundaries. And again, I include myself in this. I am a work in progress, and I am never going to talk at you. I'm talking with you. Okay. We in this together. So some ways that I have set boundaries in my business, or, some ways that you can set boundaries in your business. Number one, acknowledge your anger and resentment, where it comes from, and write it down. That's the first thing, right? To acknowledge, to even figure out what your boundaries are, you need to figure out what the hell pisses you off. What gets you mad? Is it when a client takes 3 months to give you feedback? Is it when a client is late with a payment? What is it that pisses you off? What gets you mad? Is it when people are texting you at 12 o'clock in the morning to book a session? What is it? Okay. We need to write those things down so we can assess them. And our anger is a link. It is a key to us discovering what is making us happy versus what's making us unhappy. And our anger is, again, it's an indicator. It allows us to fully acknowledge that we're upset about something, and we have the right to be upset about stuff. You have every single right. You have every single right to be upset about things. But what we're going to do this time is we're going to acknowledge it. We're going to acknowledge where that resentment comes from. We're going to acknowledge why, you feel cynical towards working with a certain, with chefs again, or whichever group it is that drives you nuts, or just overall, just like knowing that, how do I say this? I'm a little stumped. I guess using your anger and using your emotions can just point you in the right way of knowing what boundaries you need to create for yourself. Because number two, what I was about to go into is that create your policies around the situations that have happened in business. And then, in order for you to keep these things from happening again, to stay away from it, to refrain from it. So now that you've acknowledged that anger, where that energy comes from, that resentment, that cynicism, you want to now create policies around these things. So that way it keeps them from happening again. Okay. Number 3, set specific communication times and set operating hours. Okay. So choose the times of day you are going to communicate. If you are only going to answer emails between 10 to 11 a.m. and then 4 to 5 p.m., that is it. That is up to you. Stick to that. If you want to set up the times in which you work, whereas you are off Mondays and you're off Tuesday, and you work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, and you're off that day, you have every single right to do that. Okay. So number 4 on how to set boundaries in your business. Again, and I think I mentioned this in the last office hours, blocking off time for specific tasks and projects. So once you are able to create boundaries for yourself, it'll be easier to create boundaries for everyone else. When you're giving yourself a time or parameter to work in, and you're blocking off this time, that's where it's like, okay, I can't go out until I complete this. I've done it for myself multiple times. Works amazing, sweetie. So make sure that you actually allocate times for the things that you need to do and the things that you want to do as well. Where did I go? Maybe number 6. I think I'm on number 6 now. Or no, actually, I think I'm on number 5. Yes. Create welcome packets. Create welcome packets. If you were to create a client welcome packet and you can list all of the expectations, how things are going to go, in the project from conception to completion, that is amazing, because you are letting them know, okay, this is how things are going to go. And client welcome packs are a great way to include your business processes. It's also a great way to include timelines, general frequently asked questions. And I just find that client welcome packets are just like, a cute little signature as well. And it's also a nice way to state your boundaries. Okay. And I think I said, so that was number 6, or was that number 5? That was number 5. So number 6. This one is going to sound a little harsh. Okay. Remember, there are no friends in business. This is going to be a whole nother episode. Okay. There are no friends in business. Now, can you do business with friends? Yes, you can. But the issue with this is that just in case business goes awry, you lose 2 things, the friendship and the business. So be very mindful when going into business with friends, because I've had situations where I've had friends pressure me into doing business with them, or they want a discount, and I'm going to get into that as well. They want a discount and they might not want to pay as much. And a lot of the times our relationship would skew my business process, and you do not need that to happen, especially again, when you owe someone your money, your bills. You got to answer to someone at the end of the day. I don't think Uncle Sam could give a fuck about whether or not your friend screwed you over and was late on their payment because they had to pay their car note instead of paying you. I don't think they care about that at all whatsoever. Okay. I think I'm up to number 6 or number 7. I should have listed these bullet points, honestly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I'm up to number 7 now. No friends and family discounts. Stop giving them out. Stop giving out the discounts. Only if you can afford to give out discounts. Maybe once a year you can do a friends and family discount, so on and so forth. But stop discounting your skills and your ability. Okay, you do not deserve that. You deserve to be fully compensated for your work. Now, when it comes to things like barters and whatnot, if they were of equal and even exchange, by all means, do them, because everybody has something to offer at the end of the day. But just remember, like, you do not want to blur the lines. You want people to respect you as a business owner, not a friend. Do you think anyone ever celebrates, oh my God, she was a nice girl in business? No, it's the person that is making the moves. And sometimes it requires you to be a bit of a shark. And sometimes it's so hard for creatives to do because we are so emotionally vested and tied to our work. And we just want, everyone to win. But no, man, no. Gotta stop. We gotta figure out a way to prioritize, how do I say this? We have to find a way to see ourselves in the way that other people see us. If people are coming to you and they think that you're this expert, you are the expert, but you need to also see yourself that way. So yeah, charge accordingly. Okay. Another, I want to say I was up to number 8. I think use a project management system to hold task accountability, especially if you work with other people, other contractors. Project management systems, there are so many out there. There's Asana, there's Trello. I love using Notion right now. I was using ClickUp previously. Asana, I've probably tried all of them, but I really love Notion right now. It's so dope when it comes for me managing all of my tasks, my subtasks, my goals when they need to be completed. And if you work with other people, you work with a client, you can also use this project management system to hold them accountable to the things that they need to provide you, any deliverables, any checklist items. That's what I love it for. Number 9, don't wait to act. Don't wait till things get bad. So I've done this mistake before where I have waited because I've been so afraid of somebody's reaction. Like, oh my God, me stating my policies now, I'm going to come off and sound like a tyrant. And it's like, girl, no, like, you think they're thinking about you? Like, no, they're not thinking about you, right? You need to act. Do not procrastinate. When someone crossed the line, call them out right then and there. Let them know. Correct the boundary. Do not wait until the second time that they come around to say, oh, I'm sorry I did that again. Don't let there be a second time. Stay right then and there. Right? Charge for extra fees. Lateness. I think, did I say number 9? Did I say number 9 already? Or was it 8? It was 8, so 9. Charge extra fees for lateness, revisions, and project delays. So that's another way to set boundaries. You should not be working past a project date unless you are getting paid for it. I've made that mistake many times before in the past, especially if it is not based on your doings. Okay, you need to make sure that you are being compensated for any extra work that you are doing. When you are in service, you are being paid for your time. Okay, you are not a product-based business. It's very different, right? What happens if I'm going to go get my hair done, right? And my stylist has about 5 other clients for that day, and I'm 30 minutes to an hour late. What's going to happen if my stylist takes me, right? It's going to push her back for the rest of her week. All her appointments are messed up from this point forward, all because I did not hold myself accountable to being ready on time. So that is where fees come in, because now she has to work even harder to get me out of her chair on time. And now I'm inconveniencing her. So making sure that when you are being inconvenienced, you are charging accordingly for that. You should not, go broke. And again, I've learned this lesson before. I'm only speaking from experience. You don't want to go broke or end up, in financial deficit, all because you are doing much more than what's being given to you in return. That lack of reciprocity, no, got to cut that off. Okay. And lastly, kind of sort of what I just recently mentioned about charging extra fees for lateness, but charging for your time. I don't think people actually consider this. Like when a friend is hitting you up because they just want you to be a sounding board or they want you to be a quick ear for this project that they just consultation fee. Figure out what your hourly rate is. I remember one point in time I used to get so upset when I'd be like, oh my God, this person wants to pick my brain and da, da, da. And I'm like, no, Brittany, you have the option to tell someone like, hey, where do you want me to send the invoice? My mentor, I hired him for something. And the first thing I asked was, how much do you charge? Because I want to be treated with that same level of love and respect and appreciation that he treats all his other clients. So I am going to pay the full rate. Okay. And more than anything, I appreciate his time. I appreciate his time. And because I take his time seriously, I take my time seriously. So I take his time seriously. And I get that in return. Okay. So, he also taught me charge for your time. Like he charged, I'm like, whew, by the hour, I was like, I'm going to pay this, but he is the best. You feel me? And if I want the best, I'm going to pay for the best. And if you are the best, then they need to pay for the best. So charge for your time, charge your worth. Okay. We are not going into the rest of this year crying and complaining about our lack of business boundaries. We are getting it together. We are doing this together, and we are going to set better boundaries from here on out when it comes to managing our business. I hope you all enjoyed today's Office Hours episode. I cannot wait to hear from you all. Let me know what are some ways that you've incorporated boundaries in your business. Let me know what are some issues you've had with setting those boundaries. Do you still stick to them? And thank you again. I wanted to do this episode just because I've noticed so many creatives who deal with this. I noticed so many creatives who literally have like the life drained and sucked out of them, all because they are literally running around like a little puppy dog, to, just when working with clients who are just not that easy to work with. And this is for you. I really hope that you start to take your business seriously as an artist, as a creative. Understand this business cannot function and run without you, and you need boundaries in order to protect yourself, in order to make sure you get paid, in order for you to live this lifestyle that you desire and deserve to live. Okay? So again, we are leaving this in 2020. So we're going to practice for now together. But come 2023, our boundaries and our businesses are going to be on lock. They're going to be on point. Okay, everyone, take care and stay tuned for the next episode. Okay. Peace out, and sending you all loving energy.